When it comes to prepping, you will hear a lot of different excuses as to why people aren't able to be as prepared as they would like. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 10 worst excuses for not prepping that I see all the time in comment sections all over the YouTube prepper community. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about the excuses you get from everybody, whether or not it's your family, your friends, relatives, whoever it might be, the excuses they will give you when it comes to why they're not prepared. And these are the top 10 worst excuses that you'll ever see when it comes to the comments section on different YouTube prepper channels, when it comes to the forums, when it comes to just about anything revolving around preparedness as to why people aren't able to do it. So I want you to be aware and do some self-reflection about whether or not you fall into one of these categories or use these excuses on a regular basis as to why you can't get to where you want to be when it comes to your preparation. And understand that we are our own worst enemies very often, so don't be your own obstacle. And if you're trying to be as prepared as possible and you want to get yourself out of your own way, then hit the subscribe button below so that once in a while I can chastise you about these comments that I get sometimes about why you're not prepared. Okay, so here's the top 10. Number 1. The government will save you. That's a big one I see all the time. The government's gonna save us. Why do I need to prepare? FEMA will come, they'll take me to a camp, they'll provide me all the meals I need and all the water I need, and they'll take care of me and my family. Well, that's a terrible, terrible idea. First off, the government, they may have to kill you in order to save you. That's how they operate. Keep that in mind. And if you want any inclination as to how FEMA or the government might operate when it comes to saving large groups of people and taking care of their well-being during a crisis, well, look down at the southern border right now and tell me if that's the kind of conditions you'd prefer to survive in. Do not count on the government. They are not your best friend in an emergency. In fact, you are just an obstacle to them. You're just a problem. You yourself, you're something that's going to make their lives more difficult. So basically, you're a burden. So do not depend on the government to save you, and do not use that excuse as to why you're not preparing, because it's a bad, bad idea, okay? So, number 2, I don't have any money. That's a big one you hear all the time, and it's understandable because prepping can be expensive. If you want to buy food, if you want to get water storage, if you want to buy land, if you want to get a home, if you want to get firearms, you want to get gear, you want to get equipment, everything's very, very expensive. It's not something that anyone is shy about. We know it costs a lot of money to be as prepared as we want to be. But don't let the expense keep you from preparing. There's a lot of great videos out there about dollar store preps that you can get. Even if you spend $5 a week on preps, things that are super basic like canned food, you can find yourself in a much better situation down the road than you would have been a year before. So don't let money be the reason why you can't prepare. It's a good excuse because things can be expensive, but there's 2 things you can do. You can either budget better and buy things very cheap and buy as little as you need to in order to get by while still preparing, or find ways to get more money. There's a huge labor shortage right now in the world, especially in industries like the restaurant business, where people can't hire enough workers back to fulfill the demand for what they supply. So you can easily find yourself another job here very soon if that's what it requires for you to be better prepared. Sacrifice is important to preparation, and if you're not willing to do it, then I'm sorry, that's probably why you don't have enough money to prepare. Moving on from there. Number 3, you don't really own that land. This is one you see a lot where people say, look, what's the point of buying acreage? What's the point of having property? Why should I buy a house? You don't really own it. If you have a mortgage, the bank really owns it. If you own it outright, well, you still have to pay taxes, eminent domain, all those things is why it's really pointless. And honestly, I'm just gonna stay in my 1-bedroom apartment in the middle of the city because buying land is pointless. You don't really own it anyway. Well, I guarantee you that when you own land or you own a home, or even if you have a mortgage on land or a home, you still have much more in the sense of property owner rights than anybody else does to that land, in the sense of being able to prepare and be situated where you want to be for a long amount of time. And if you're paying rent, you're literally throwing money in the trash. If you have a mortgage, you're at least building equity. So there's a lot of things there that I understand the process of thinking that there is no real ownership in those items, but you're just saying that because you're not in a position to do it right now. Don't use it as an excuse to not strive for that in the future. Don't use it as an excuse to not be better prepared, especially when it comes to location. Because we all know when it comes to survival or when it comes to doing successful business, it's location, location, location. So that's another excuse you'll see all the time. Don't use it. Just do what you need to do to find yourself in a better position so you can eventually acquire the land or the home or the property that you want, okay? Number 4, this one I really enjoy because it is just super accurate. There's a lot of thought put into it. And a lot of people have put a lot of hard hours of critical thinking into why this is definitely a great excuse to not prepare. And that's because you'll be able to pick it all up off the ground. We all know that this is marauder mentality. Don't be a marauder. Understand that picking things up off the ground is a terrible strategy no matter who you are or where you are or what is happening. The idea of scavenging everything you could possibly need for survival is unreasonable, and it's a terrible excuse to not be prepared. Well, why would I buy all this food, and why would I buy all this ammo, and why would I buy all these things if down the road I'm just going to be able to get it all off the ground? You're not going to be able to get it off the ground. Stop saying that. It's a bad excuse for why you're not prepared. It's okay to not have the things you need right now, but make a plan to acquire them. Don't just assume you're going to walk down the street and just pick up some cheesecake and pick up some water filters and pick up maybe a book about how you need to be better about not just picking stuff up off the ground, okay? Keep those things in mind. Picking things off the ground, not a good strategy, bad excuse, stop using it. Number 5. Okay, number 5 is a great one. I hear this one a lot. You guys probably know all about it, but number 5 is everyone else is going to kill you and take all your stuff. So why prepare? Why put away food? Why stockpile anything if people are just going to come kill you and take it anyway? Well, honestly, that's a concern, a big concern, because of the off the ground people we just talked about. Those ones picking up everything off the ground, they're waiting for people like you to come outside so they can pick you off and then pick up all your stuff off the ground. So yeah, there's a concern for people coming around, killing you and taking all your stuff. I totally get it, but it's not a good excuse not to prepare. What's the concept behind that? I'm not going to worry about an inherent danger because it's inherent? That doesn't make any sense at all. Otherwise, what's even the point of concealed carry? What's the point of learning self-defense? What's the point of even something as basic as carrying mace? There is no point if that's really your mentality. So that's a bad excuse as to why you don't want to prepare. Look, there's always the chance that roaming gangs of marauders will come to your home, kill you, and take all your stuff, of course. But the better prepared you are, the better chance you have of defending that stuff and defending yourself from said roaming gang of marauders. So don't let that be a reason as to why you don't prepare. It's a bad excuse. I get it, but it's a bad excuse. Don't use it. Moving on, number 7. Now this one has a lot of viability to it. There's a lot of reasoning behind why people use this excuse because it's valid. I understand this excuse. And so this one is not to chastise anybody by any means, but this is just to give you a different idea or a different perspective as to what you can pull off if this is one of your excuses for why you can't prepare. And that's by being physically unable to prepare. Maybe you suffer from some sort of a handicap, or maybe there's a physical ailment that you can't control that keeps you from being able to be as prepared as you would like. That's an understandable situation to be in that you might not have any control over. However, don't allow that to stop you from preparing at all. Keep in mind that there's a lot of excellent things that people with different physical impairments can still add, especially in the sense of a mag or a group of some kind that is useful for preparation and survival. Perhaps you don't have the ability to be physical outdoors. Maybe you're not going to be capable of doing hard labor or gardening or anything along those lines. Well, use your brain and be the source of knowledge that the rest of the group is going to rely on. Use the fact that you're physically unable to prepare in the way that you would like to pivot and be more mentally prepared than anyone else around you. Use your ability to understand, read, digest information, and give out knowledge and wisdom as your donation to the group. And understand that that's how you can still prepare, and that you can be a source of knowledge that nobody else is going to have the ability to be because of all the time spent doing other things. You can be that person. You can be the strategist. You can be the quartermaster, the inventory auditor. You can be everything that other people might not have time for. So there is ways for you to still prepare. Don't use it as an excuse to not prepare at all. Use it as a way to pivot towards a different sense of preparedness than what most people tend to look at when it comes to survival. So I wanted to bring that one up because you see it a lot, but there is a lot you can still do and that people like myself can rely on and actually benefit from in an SHTF scenario. So moving on from there, back to chastising. Number 8. My spouse is not on board. That's a huge one. We all talk about it all the time. How do I get my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my family, whoever it might be on board with prepping? If they're not on board, I can't prep, it's over, we're done. Well, first off, you can still prep. Yes, maybe not to the extent that you want, but I know there's ways that you can be better prepared, especially when it comes to just individualism. So things like everyday carry is a huge part of being prepared for whatever could happen on a daily basis. So at least make sure your EDC is up to date and where it needs to be in order to be better prepared just for regular life events, whether or not you have all the food storage or everything else that you want based on what your spouse is on board with or not. At least for yourself, you're ready to go. Then you need to utilize strategy in the sense of pushing the ideas of preparation onto those people and letting them know why it's so important without being forceful. You need them to come to the light side by their own will. And if you don't provide them a pathway to it, they might not ever get there. So make sure you're sharing information. Make sure you're sharing headlines, news stories, things that will kind of help push those people towards understanding the reasoning behind why preparedness is so important. And then show them what it can mean to try to prepare. That doesn't mean just being boring and showing them how to put rice in buckets and throw it in the closet. Show them the funner, more exciting parts of preparation that can help maybe turn their wheels within their brain a little bit more towards the idea, and at the same time give them the concept that it can be a fun hobby more so than just a chore. And maybe that can help push them into that environment of preparedness. But if they're still not on board, we both know you can still prepare. Forgiveness over permission? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway, number 9, why would you want to survive anyway? I'd rather just die in the blast. That is a huge excuse you see for why people don't prepare. You see it all over the place in all the comment sections. I would just rather die. Why would I want to survive in a post-apocalyptic world anyway? It will be horrible, and I won't be able to play Pokemon Go. So therefore, I would rather just die right off the bat. Make sure you come to my house and maraud the crap out of me. Make sure the nuke goes off right in my front yard. That's what I prefer. That's why I don't prepare. Because I don't need to prepare because I'm going to die right away. Well, that's a mentality. It's a bad one. It's not a good one for any sense of how you live your life in the sense of being successful. I guarantee that's not a successful mindset to have, but at the same time, it's an excuse. It's an excuse to not prepare. And whether or not that's something that you wish for in the sense of the fantasy concept of SHTF, when that time comes and when there's an emergency of that scale, you're not going to just willingly lay down there and die. It's very anti our instinct for us to do said things. So try to prepare now so if that ever occurs, you can actually have some form of comfort when it comes to trying to survive an emergency situation. And that's the point of preparing. It's not to have the same exact lifestyle we've always had. It's not to have all the amenities that we're used to. It's to have a quality of life that's livable and worth living post-apocalyptic scenario, not necessarily be the exact same situation we have right this second, which for many of us and many of you, is that even what you really want? Think about that. So that's a bad excuse. You don't want to die anyway. You need to survive. We need more people like you on our side so there's less marauders. Please don't become a marauder because of that mentality, because I guarantee you like 62.7% of marauders will have that mentality before SHTF. Guarantee it. Anyway, the last one. This is a good one. This is an annoying one. This is one that drives anyone who actually prepares frickin' bonkers, man. What am I even saying? Anyway, I'll just go to Walmart. Stop saying that. Just stop. It's terrible. And it's so annoying. Oh, I don't need to prepare. I'll just go to Walmart. I'm going to go to Costco. I'm going to go to Sportsman's Warehouse. I'll be at Bass Pro Shops. No, you won't. And if you are, you're probably going to die because everyone else on the planet has the same dumb idea. Stop using that as an excuse to not prepare. Oh, I don't need to prepare. There's a store right down the street from me that's full of supplies that I'll just go raid after an SHTF or during an apocalyptic scenario. What? No, you won't. I'm sorry, but there will be people who are better prepared, more organized, and more violent than you that are willing to take over places like that and will actually have the means to do so. If you think that you are just going to hop in your golf cart and drive down to the local store and start taking any food that you want, and you don't think that your local area gang has decided that that's something they're going to do no matter what happens already, and that they're not well armed and well organized in the sense of how they're going to handle people who get out of control during those situations, well, you're mistaken. And you're putting yourself in a really, really dangerous situation if that ever occurs. So relying on that as how you're going to survive and using it as an excuse to not prepare is a terrible idea. It's so bad. Stop. Holy crap, I can't believe how many people actually say that and actually believe that. And when you talk to an average person, not someone who's into preparedness, not a prepper, not somebody who's even had the basic moniker of preparedness figured out in their own home in the sense of extra batteries and a flashlight. When you talk to your average, run-of-the-mill average Joe, and they say, I'm just gonna head down to my local sporting goods store and pick up anything that I can find when this all happens, you know they actually think that, and they actually believe it, and the ones who use it as an excuse to not be prepared, it's usually out of laziness. So don't allow that to be you. Don't be your own obstacle. You gotta be better than that. Planning on raiding a Walmart is the worst idea ever, okay? There's a lot of better stores to raid than Walmart. There, I said it. I'll let you figure out what other stores might be better than a Walmart. But what I'm saying is, these are bad excuses. Stop using these excuses to not prepare. You see them in every single comment section of almost every single prepper video that's out there. And I'm sure other creators on the YouTube platform could chime in and let you know that, yeah, this is kind of an issue and it's something we see a lot of. It's bad to make these excuses. Yes, it's okay to not be as prepared as you want, and it's okay to not be where you want to be in the sense of preparation. But don't use these excuses as to why. Just plan and set goals and put yourself in motion towards those goals so that you can say, look, I don't have the supplies I want now, but I'm not going to raid a Walmart. What I am going to do is slowly put $5 per paycheck towards canned food until I have a decent amount of canned food stashed away. And then I might switch that $5 to a different item that I want to stockpile. Those are all things that we should be doing. Instead of making excuses, especially these 10 excuses, you frickin' marauders. So, without anything else to say about why these are the 10 worst excuses for why you're not prepared for SHTF and why I don't want to hear them anymore from anybody, that's going to be it from Magic Prep.